And we are live. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Google Hangout on air with two amazing people. James Dashner, author of the New York Times bestselling series The Maze Runner and The Mortality Doctrine, and Krista Marino, his brilliant editor. My name is Aisha Cloud, publicity manager at Random House Kids. Before we get started, I want to be sure you're all aware of how to submit questions and vote for your favorites. There are two ways you could be watching this Hangout right now. Most of you are probably on Google+. You know that you're on Google+ if you're seeing what's called the Showcase panel on the right-hand side of your window. If you're watching on YouTube, you do not see that panel, but instead there's a little message in the bottom left-hand corner of this video. When you click that, it sends you to watch on Google+, which I would suggest doing so you can submit and vote on questions. When you get to Google+, and for those already there, if you'd like to submit a question or vote for your favorite, you just need to toggle from that Showcase panel on your right-hand side, to what's called the QA panel by clicking on the little keypad icon in the upper right-hand corner of this window. It looks just like the keypad on a phone, a square with 9 little dots. Find that keypad, click on it. You should see both the Showcase and Q&A icons. Click on the Q&A icon to show the Q&A panel. You'll see how easy it is to submit your own question or upvote someone else's by clicking +1. Question with the most +1s will float to the top of the list. So once again, thank you for joining us today. And now I'm going to turn things over to James and Krista to answer your burning questions about the SCORCH trials. Take it away, guys.
Hi.
Hey everybody, good to see you.
Hello. Aisha, are you going to help us choose questions, or are we going to do it like we did it last time? I guess it's... Oh.
My mic was off. So sorry, guys. I'm pushing questions to the top, so you can ask questions and then talk. Let's go on. It's all about you guys, not me. Okay, I'm hiding.
Okay. So, James, you and I were just at Comic-Con, and it was really fun, right?
Yes, it was. Really fun.
It was really busy, I would say.
Yes. And there's lots of people there. Lots of crazy people. That's a compliment.
Yeah. I love crazy people. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question, the toppest question on our list, and it is, do you ever think about Group B and their story? Is it one you would ever tell in the future?
Well, I think about Group B all the time, especially for this new book, The Fever Code, which is coming out in September. You will definitely see some of Group B. But they were always important to me because, you know, there's just something very mysterious about them, how they're waiting in the wings, and it seems like they're going through a lot of similar things to Group A, which is Thomas and everybody. But we never really find that much out about them. And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, which is kind of cool because you can like use your imagination to think about what's going on, which I feel like I fill in the blanks in my imagination.
Yeah, I mean, we don't, you know, I think the great thing about a lot of books and movies are that we let you fill in the blanks for yourself. We don't spoon feed you every little detail because that can get really annoying and seem like you're reading a laundry list or something. But you know, lots and lots of people have asked me if one day I would write a completely different book or series from the perspective of Group B. And it's certainly not in the plans right now. You will get a good taste of them in the Fever Code. But, you know, I've learned to never say never, so who knows what the future holds. But right now I'm looking forward to trying some other things after we get the Fever Code out to you guys.
Just like Justin Bieber, you never say never.
That's right. I am like Justin Bieber in more ways than one.
Okay, so here's a good question that people are asking, which I think is good because, wait, okay, this is a different question, sorry. Okay, which is also a good question. Why did Thomas trust Brenda after he learned she worked for Wicked, but not Teresa after he learned she betrayed him to keep him alive?
Wow, very good question. Very good question.
I feel like
You
it's
know,
like after you read the Fever Code too, you learn you like a longer time you trust someone, the more you feel betrayed, right?
yeah, that's definitely true. And Thomas didn't have a lot of choice sometimes. He had to go with the flow, react in the minute or in the second. And he did find out that Brenda worked for Wicked, but she never did something so immediate and direct and visceral to Thomas like Teresa did um, in the SCORCH trials. I mean, no matter how much she says that it was part of the test and they forced her to do it and all this kind of stuff, I mean, she was just absolutely brutal to him, just ruthless. And I think it damaged him, damaged her, and there's just no way he could go back to square one with her. And I really tried to show that.
Which I think like I said, they're like so close from what you learn in book one in the Fever Code, which is what book one, book -1. They're
Something
like
like that.
babies together almost, like when you grow up with someone. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, just like us, James. Just like us.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. But also, just the cool thing about Fever Code is, even though it's a prequel, and so you think you know everything that's going to happen, we definitely figured out a way to throw some surprises at our readers, didn't we?
Well, yeah, I think like you were really good about how you kind of know like big points that happened in his past, but you don't know how they happened or why they happened. And sometimes when you learn how things happen, it changes the story completely. So
Yeah. And
that's
and people may look at that relationship between Thomas and Teresa a little differently after they read the book.
And I think like we've talked about Dr. Page.
Yep. There's a lot about Dr. Page.
Definitely. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we better shut up before we give away the whole book, huh?
I know. Okay. Okay, this is a good question. And I think it's like another good example of the things that Wicked does to Thomas. But why did Wicked have signs around the city saying, Thomas, you are the real leader? Did they want him to feel important, or did they want him to take over from Minho?
Well, a lot of times what Wicked does is they're just trying to stimulate reactions, and they're trying to stimulate brain patterns and stimulate scenarios that may not even be predictable. And that's the whole point in the study that they're doing. And so, they always refer to the psychs, who are these really smart scientists slash psychologists and doctors who try to come up with new ways to, kind of poke the gladers and poke their minds to get different reactions. And I just think that was so monumental to both Thomas and to his friends to see something like that. And they wanted to see if it would add discord, how people would react to it. And, it kind of goes back to my thing I've always said, that I loved Lord of the Flies, and the Maze Runner is kind of my response to that, in that no matter how hard they try, or even the circumstances themselves, the gladers never really fall apart. They keep staying together, they keep loyal for the most part, and they keep working together, which I think is the antithesis of Lord of the Flies.
I think also, like as an editor, when I was reading that manuscript, and I saw that was one of the things that one of the reveals I think that you did that was so amazing, because I was all, what? Oh my God, this is crazy. what does this mean? And then it like makes you keep reading, and you keep like dropping these little pieces that keep changing the story a little bit and showing that there's someone watching them and they're doing things and to manipulate their journey. So they're kind of being herded along, which I do have to say was one of my favorite parts of the book that I was sad didn't make it into the movie, which I can say, but you probably can't say. The movies
No
are,
comment.
but that was the sad part. That was a cool part that wasn't used. Okay, next question. Okay, so that's exactly what it says. It says, okay, so the cranks are horrifying. How did you come up with the name for them, and would you prefer if you had to come to face with a griever or a crank?
Oh, I would definitely choose a crank. I think the Grievers are just too big and powerful. Too many metallic appendages to deal with. A crank, in a lot of ways, even though they're completely crazy, and I have to remember, I'm trying to separate book world from the movie world.
Yeah.
We're definitely talking about the book world right now.
Yeah.
And they're not these all-powerful, crazy, insane zombies
They weren't
that
like
kind of appear.
fast and veiny in the book.
Yeah, they're humans who are very extremely ill, but they're completely crazy, which is creepy and scary, and also turns them into these really desperate animalistic creatures. But they are naturally weakened by this virus, so I think, if I was having a good day, I could probably handle one of them. I wouldn't want to get stuck in a pack of like 10 cranks. That could be really bad.
Because they can be you can't really guess what they're gonna do. They're a little bit, they could jump at you fast. But
Yeah, they've lost their ability to reason, and they're completely irrational. And to me, that's one of the most terrifying things I can think of, is dealing with someone who has all the powers of a human and all the abilities of a human, but not a proper brain to hold back and keep yourself civilized and rational. So that terrifies me, which is why that's what they are in the books.
okay, which is true. They are terrifying. Well, my computer's heating up. Okay. It's on my legs. Okay, the scene where the molten silver balls are attacking the gladers in the dark as they get to the Scorch still haunts me. Why did you include that scene in the book? That's a really cool scene.
So much about, so much of the Maze Runner series is me attempting to just, encourage and embellish these crazy ideas that pop in my head, and to nourish them and try to work them into a story. The Maze Runner is just a blueprint for something that can have all these crazy, crazy things, because you have these basically mad scientists trying to come up with different ways to stimulate these test subjects. And I wanted to avoid things that were very, very common. I like to have my own creations, which is, where the Grievers came from, and those crazy bulb creatures at the end of SCORCH Trials. And when I imagined, as I was plotting out and imagining and brainstorming the scene in that long, dark tunnel, which, nothing's creepier than bad things happening to you in a long, dark tunnel.
Yeah.
Which is why you see that happen a couple times. But I don't know, I just imagine this crazy futuristic metallic goo type thing, which was very inspired by Terminator 2, the Terminator that's all silvery metal.
Yeah.
And also inspired by The Abyss from James Cameron. These are old,
Yeah.
they're not
Wait,
old, but 90s.
that's James Cameron?
Yes, they're both by James Cameron.
And what
I
about
must like him.
Aliens? There's some silver.
Wait, what?
Aliens, isn't that James Cameron and there's silver blood in that?
Aliens? I can't remember.
No, the alien has silver acid. It has acid for blood.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yep.
sorry.
But yeah, in the abyss, the water forms into shapes, kind of like the silver does in Terminator 2. But anyway, that was probably the inspiration for that idea, and then I just imagined, I don't know, it just seems so horrifying to this stuff to attach to your face
Mm.
and then just envelop your entire head and turn into a sphere, which by definition would cut your head off. I don't know what's wrong with me, to be honest. I have a dark, sick mind, I guess, but it just seemed really cool and really horrifying. And I love the image of trying to rip it off, which Thomas does to Winston before it can complete its. Or is it Winston? Now I'm getting movie world and book world mixed up a little bit. But anyway, it came from the dark imagination of James Dashner, I guess.
Which is very dark. Okay, here's a good fever code question. Will we learn the exact ages of the gladers in the fever code?
You don't really learn their exact ages, but it's also not like we're trying to hide it from you.
There's some time. I
really
think you can put some math together and kind of figure it out, don't you think? Because it goes over a couple of years.
Every single chapter in the fever code, this is a new thing, has a time stamp and a date stamp, because more time passes in the fever code than in the other books. So we wanted to give you a feel for the time passing as the book goes by. And yeah, you could probably do some math and really try hard to figure out how old they are, but it's definitely implied, you know, what age groups they're in the various stages of the book.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the questions on the side. Okay, there's a question, but I'm gonna change it. Okay, the question is, who is your favorite character in the series besides Thomas? But I'm gonna ask you. I mean, that's assuming Thomas is your favorite character. I'm going to ask you, what is another of your favorite characters? Because I feel like you would never choose one that's your favorite. How could you?
True, so true. Well, usually I've always said that Min-ho is my favorite. Thomas isn't really my favorite because I feel too attached to him. You know, the whole series, basically, except Kill Order, is from his perspective, and so I basically feel like he's just me. I can't really have myself as a favorite because I bore myself. But Min-ho is definitely one of my favorites. I love how loyal he is, and sassy, and brave.
Funny,
But he's so not perfect.
I agree with you. I love Minho also. And I think it's really interesting that Newt kind of like rose to the top a lot in lots of fans, even before he was cast in the movie.
Yeah, I would say 9 out of 10 people who come to my signings or whatever, you know, Newt is their favorite. And anyone who's read The Death Cure knows what happens to Newt. And my fans really like to let me hear about that. And they like to make me sign page 250 and all that kinds of stuff. So yeah, Newt is definitely a fan favorite, and they do get to see a lot of him in the Fever Code. Newt's one of my favorites. Min-ho's one of my favorites. You know, I really miss Albie. I've always loved Chuck. So yeah, you're right. It is hard. What'd you say?
I said I love Fry Pan.
Oh yeah, Fry Pan. See, there's so many.
I know.
They're all great. And at this point, it's hard to separate them from the actors who played them in the movies, which, you know, those actors have made me love them and feel attached to them even more. So
you got lucky. All of those actors are so good and so lovable.
Yep,
You just
they
use
are.
them. Okay. Who I would have to say my favorite, one of my favorites from the new movie or the second movie is Sonia, who's on Shadowhunters.
Yes,
I really liked her.
yes. Kat McNamara. Um, yeah, well, yeah. I was about to spoil something, but I'm going to be quiet.
I feel like that was already. Mm, no, it's not. I was gonna say we.
Wait, no, be careful.
Okay, never mind. Nothing. That won't be spoiled. Okay, okay. Let's move on before I ruin it. Um. Okay. How about? Okay. Why didn't Newt give Minho the note? If he did, how would Minho have reacted? Could he have gone through with pulling the trigger? And that's a question. I'm sorry, I should be saying who asked these questions. Amber D asked that question. That's really good, Amber. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Just, I mean, obviously, probably my first thought was that, the story is told from the perspective of Thomas. And so, as a reader, you're not going to see much of this storyline if Newt gives the note to someone else, unless Minho comes and talks to Thomas. So that was probably the practical reason, but it also makes a lot of sense to me because Thomas has just developed this, voice of reason role in this group of gladers, and Minho is much more off the cuff, emotionally reactive. I don't see that going over well with Minho. Plus, I think Minho and Newt, because they've been in the maze longer together, that it would have been harder for him maybe to do it. And yeah, I don't know if Minho could have done that. That's a tough one.
I have a really good question, and I think it's adorable. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to do it as if I'm asking it for you. Okay. First of all, I love you, and I also want to know um, what happened with the rest of the world after the flare. I mean, there could be a wicked for each country, or if they ever tried to find a cure. Uh-oh. Okay. Got the rest got I lost it. And it said maybe a Latin American maze. Greetings from your Latin American fanship.
I do love my fans are so cool down in Latin America.
Oh, it says maybe a
And
Latino maze?
well, I
I
mean,
think you let the secret out where you say the scorch is, because we talked about this all the time when you were writing the book.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely see it in Mexico. Um, and I'm actually going to Mexico in December for a book festival in Guadalajara.
Oh my
So if
God!
you're watching from Mexico, I will see you in December. You better come see me. But you know, I could see these other places of the world that are completely isolated from North America may have tried their own thing, and this is where the reader's imagination can go different ways. Maybe someone else does find a cure. That's a possibility. There's definitely what happened in my head was that even though in the end, and again, this is major spoilers. I'm assuming you guys have read these books. Even though in the end,
Second.
yeah, but I mean, most of them, if you haven't read Death Cure, hit your mute button. In the end, Dr. Page decides that she can't go any farther with this cure, these trials, whatever. But it's not a complete failure because through all these terrible things they've done, they've created this really, really strong core group of people that, when combined with some of the other immunes that they had captured, they could go to an isolated place and, be the seed to save the human race and start over again once the rest of the world has just either completely wiped itself out or enough time has passed that the flare virus has burned out and disappeared. But who knows what goes on? Maybe something weird was going on down in South America. In fact, in the original draft of Maze Runner, there was something going down in South America, but we kind of went away from that. And, of course, over in China or India, Australia, who knows? But I love it that readers think about that kind of stuff and imagine things beyond the actual scope of the pages they've read. I love that.
Here's a good question, and I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. Will we learn Newt's real name in the Fever Code? Loves from Turkey, heart.
Well, I tell you what, it's kind of like what I said earlier. I really don't like it when a book's purpose is just to give you a big, long list of answers. It feels like you're just reading a to-do list or a laundry list, and some things should be left to the imagination. Now, I know some people will say that's a cop-out, and I do believe that you should give the answers that matter, but things like Newt's name, or, we do reveal some original names, and I won't say whether or not we reveal Newt's name, but a lot of those things you think you want to know, and then you find out, you're like, ugh. It's kind of like a magic trick. We all think we want to know how a magic trick is done, but once someone shows us, it's just kind of lame. Oh, you just completely ruined it. I thought it was magic. Now you showed me it was just mirrors and smoke and a weird camera or something. So Krista and I put a lot of thought into it. We answer a lot of questions. I feel like once you've read the entire Maze Runner series, it's not like you're just in the dark. You know everything that happened. You know the reasons for everything. You know where everyone ends up. You know motivations. I feel like we didn't leave anything out, but that also doesn't mean we just gave you this big long list of all these tiny little answers for things, which is really insulting to your intelligence and boring in the long run.
True. Okay, wait. I just had a really good question, and these things like go up and down on the side of my computer. Okay. Okay, this is a good question. If you were to rewrite the Maze Runner series from one of the other graders' point of view, who would it be and why? And that's from Alexa.
Well, if I really was going to do that, I would definitely choose someone from Group B. Because if I chose someone from Thomas's, group from the Gladers, there'd be way too much repetition and way too many things you'd already seen before. Whereas Group B, except for some parts in SCORCH Trials and a little bit in Death Cure, most of it would be, the first time we're seeing everything. So, I might choose Sonia or Harriet. That might be fun, but again, no plans to do that anytime in the near future.
Okay, this is a good question, and it's from Emily, who runs the @TDC Countdown on Twitter. So hi, Emily. What is something, and which is interesting because we've talked about this alone and with your agent and among ourselves in the office, just as a dream kind of thing, like if you could, what would it be? Because we all love the movies. But if there was something from the SCORCH Trials you would have liked to see on screen, what is it? something that wasn't done. And Emily says she would have loved to see the Silver Death Blobs, which I think everyone in our office was all, what happened? We wanted to see the Silver Death Blobs. But let me answer first because I have a strong opinion, and it's not for me, but whatever, Emily, I'm going to answer it. I really loved how the Group B stole Thomas and tied him to a tree. I thought that was hilarious, and also so great that they would have taken Thomas, because I would have taken Thomas if I was in Group B. Okay, how about you, Tom? Or Tom.
Please don't ever call me Tom again.
How about you, Jade?
I definitely would choose the bulb creatures, and you may see a tiny little glimpse of that in the prequel, but I just think they're really cool, and I don't even know, well, I mean, I have an idea, obviously, since I wrote it, but they're not even necessarily, like, you know, completely, I see them as Grievers. They're part machine, part biological, and I've had fans do fan art before of the bulb creatures, and they're just so cool. They're hideous, and they've got all these big tumor-like growths that glow coming out of them, and they have blades similar to the, how the Grievers have those things. And I feel like the bulb creatures added some consistency to the first book. There's not just Grievers. There's Grievers and these bulb creatures, showing that Wicked went back and mined old military stuff, some of these biological weapons, really advanced type things, and turned them into these variables for test subjects that are pretty terrifying. And I just think they would have looked so cool on the big screen, especially after what they did with the Grievers.
Mm-hmm.
They took the Grievers from the books and made them way cooler.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what they would have done with the bulb creatures. But in the end, it didn't work out to do that.
Which leads me to another question. Anna asks, did the creatures at the end of the SCORCH trials have a name, which is the bulb creatures?
Yeah, I thought it would have been cheesy to give them a name.
Yeah, because they weren't really saying, what are the... No one could give them an answer.
Yeah, they were just the bulb creatures to me. I never really had a certain name for them.
But we've talked about them in editorial notes. I've asked you, what is the... Okay, the bulb creatures, how exactly do they work?
Yeah.
We can figure some things out for the first book.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep calling it the first book. For the Fever Code.
Yes.
0.05, 0.05, 0.01. Okay, someone asked a question that if you can answer it, I think you'll prove your smarts. Charlotte asks, who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
That would be SpongeBob SquarePants.
Exactly. Even I've never watched.
You can't. No one loves SpongeBob more than my family.
Okay.
Although Patrick's my favorite.
Who's
not SpongeBob. Patrick's the starfish.
Oh.
He literally lives under a rock, which I think is awesome. That's his house.
Okay. I was the one who asked about the Game of Thrones question. Ooh. In the last Hangout, and now my question is, who would you be in the Game of Thrones?
Oh, I would be. Oh, I mean, there's no doubt who I would be, because I wish I was this person.
Who?
In real life and in Game of Thrones.
Who?
Jon Snow.
Everyone loves Jon Snow.
Played by Kit Harington, because he's amazing in every way, and I wish I could be more like him.
Okay, I'm just gonna answer the questions you got asked.
You should. That's what the point of this.
Okay, so I would say I would want to be Sansa, but she gets really bad luck. So in the interest of not getting physical harm, I would be Daenerys, because she has dragons, and she seems to be well protected.
Oh man. Yeah, if I'm allowed to be a female character, I want to be Daenerys too, so I can ride dragons.
She seems to have the best luck. Even though I'm not, I mean,
Yeah.
I would like to ride a dragon. It's not on my tops list. But she
How
seems to
could you
have the best.
how could you not want to ride a dragon?
I mean, I
My
would.
mind doesn't compute.
I know. I think a lot of people would really be into dragons. I would rather ride that big dog from Neverending Story.
That
Don't
was the most perfect answer of all time.
you think you would rather ride the dog?
Hey, hey, at my signing at Comic-Con, I had a family and their son's name was Atreyu
Oh, I love that.
from Neverending Story.
Oh, how old was he?
He was maybe 6 or 7 years old. His name was Atreyu. So I couldn't get over that. They probably thought I was weird. I was so excited by that.
You should have done that. You have 4 children. You could have done that.
I could have. I could have.
Okay. We're back on task. Okay. How did you come up with the title The Glue for Newt?
Because that's how I see him. I feel like even in the Maze Runner, when Albie was the leader, Newt was, I don't know, he was, well, the glue. I'm answering the question, or I'm answering with the question, or whatever. Anyway, he was just, I don't know, he was what kept them together. He was the voice of reason. Thomas, I think, slowly took that role from him, especially as Newt caught the flare and started going downhill.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's not like I thought days and days about it. It's just what popped in my head when I thought, what would describe Newt? He was the glue.
He is. Here's a good question, though. I'm not sure you could probably answer it off the top of your head because there's so many like great lines. But someone asks you, what is your favorite quote from the series?
Well, I really like, I really like, again, this is putting me on the spot, so don't get mad at me for not knowing the exact words of my own book. But the one where um, Minho, when he almost hits Minho in his nether regions,
Hmm.
his private parts, and he says something about saving the world from future little Minhos. I've always loved that line.
There's so many good, powerful lines. I have to say, though, that one of the lines that made me laugh in the first book that made me realize that you really get kids or teenagers and like boys and what they would be like if they were all together, which is when they were in one of the meetings, one of the like town hall kind of meetings in the meeting room, and Zart talks and someone says Zart the fart, and I was like, huh, that's exactly what a 15-year-old kid like with that name.
Yeah, yeah. If you're born with the name Zart, or if you're given the name Zart, you can pretty much expect that joke about once a day, I would guess.
There's a lot of great lines though in the maze, like follow me and run like your life depends on it, because it does.
Yeah, I love the stuff that people make memes out of, like if you ain't scared, you ain't human.
Hmm.
Um,
Welcome to the Glade.
but it's kind of hard for me, I don't like saying all this, oh, this is my favorite, because
Yeah.
I wrote it and it sounds really arrogant.
No, but it's outside of you now. It's like fans that have made it into a different thing, and the movies have, and it's like a bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here's an wait.
Oh, we have 5 minutes left. We
Okay,
just got a note.
let me. I'm looking at these questions. There's questions about the movie which we can't answer because we don't. It's in production. It's on hold. Um, what happened? Okay, so how was Comic Con? Did you enjoy San Diego?
Yes, I think that was my 7th year
Is it
in a
really?
row going. I think so. To San Diego Comic Con, and I absolutely love it.
We
I
geeked
just,
out at we saw someone from the Walking Dead sitting across from us,
oh yeah,
the blonde woman.
yep, yep. I mean, it's just fun to see all the costumes. I love looking at all the figurines and little statues and stuff that they make from everything from Lord of the Rings to Superman. I really love all the fantasy art, sci-fi art, that big section. I spent a lot of time in there. I bought a couple of prints and a couple of art books. I love, the panels and just, of course, meeting a lot of my readers at the signings. It's just fantastic. I love it.
Okay. Um, will you go to Italy? Have you been invited? I think someone needs to invite you.
Italy is high on my list because I love castles and I love cathedrals and I love European history
And the food is amazing.
and I love food. So yeah, Italy is high on my list, as are many other places. But I can only go to one or two places a year because I have kids and busy life.
And you have to write
But
books that I
I
like
can almost guarantee that I will make it to Italy sometime in the near future.
Okay, so I feel like some of these you answered last time. How about, here's a last one. And, okay, are any of your characters in the LGBT plus community?
Yes, absolutely.
But you're not going to say who.
No, because, I feel like um, maybe it wasn't appropriate to the story because there were really no romantic relationships in the Maze Runner at all. I feel like they're
In
in
the
such
Fever Code,
terrible conditions. They're trying to survive hour to hour. We didn't really have time for a bunch of romance.
mm-mm.
So it would
I'm
have seemed very, very tokenism, a lot like tokenism, to just randomly say, oh, these characters are gay and these characters are not gay, or something like that. But I love that my readers have read into some of the relationships. I have absolutely zero problem with it. I encourage it. I've always felt like, using my answer as well, there's, 50 something boys there. The odds are definitely that some of them are in that community. And I do believe that in future books, that'll be something that I try to incorporate a little more.
okay, here's one more. Um,
Okay.
and I think it's a really kind of like key question to the Scorch Trials and beyond. And I think that the Fever Code really kind of gives you a great answer to this question, but I'll let you answer right now. Do you think Teresa is a betrayer?
Well, that I'm glad you said the question because I think it's so fundamental to the entire series.
It's
I feel like Teresa's entire story arc represents what I felt like was the theme for the whole series. That nothing is black or white, that people do bad things for a reason most of the time.
yeah.
People do things they think are good things that are actually bad things, and vice versa. And the phrase "wicked is good" is just the perfect way to encapsulate the whole series in 3 words. But I'm going to refrain from actually answering because I think the Fever Code goes a long way to helping people understand Teresa, for good or for bad. And maybe we'll talk more about this after that book comes out.
I think that we should because I think that the last book kind of like really shows everyone all of the really deep thought you've put into the series as a whole and how people can do things that seem bad for the best or
Yep.
just bad things.
Yep. I'm very excited for people to read it.
Do we have time for one more, Brendan?
Sure. Last question.
Okay, one more. Okay. I am currently writing, not me, this is a question. I am currently writing a sort of sequel to The Death Cure because I just needed more to read. I love my gladers, especially Newt. Do you have any tips for me when writing something as long as the other book? So I think this is kind of like a bigger question about writing. Do you have tips about writing something as long as a novel? Which I have to say, I've never written anything that long, so God bless
Well,
you.
first of all, I love that she's doing that. That is fantastic. It's the perfect example of what I say, that as a writer, I want my readers to basically sign a contract with me where they use their imagination to take what I've written and turn it into something much bigger. So she's really taken that to heart. But you know, when I write a book, I can't think of it in terms of the whole thing. I take it day by day, and I usually write 1,000 or 2,000 words a day, which is, I don't even know what that is, maybe 4 to 8 pages, double spaced. And just really enjoy whatever that little tiny part you're working on. Just throw yourself into it. And after a few months, lo and behold, you have this whole book, and it's pretty cool. And you feel like you've really accomplished something, and this barrier falls in your mind that tells you can't do something like that. So I would just set a daily goal, maybe write 500, 1,000, 1,500 words, and have fun with it.
Look at it like a job. Like you
Yeah,
got
fun
clock
job.
in,
A really fun job.
yeah, super fun. Super fun job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. I think that, do we have an official goodbye? Good night?
We do have an official goodbye from you guys, of course. But hi again. Thanks again for joining us. If you want to learn more about the books, especially the Fever Code, check out jamesdashner.com and tune into our next Google Hangout about the Death Cure as part of the Dashner Dash Binge Read. It's on Wednesday, August 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely mark that on your calendar, right, guys?
Yeah, and
Right.
also, don't forget to pre-order the book, because if you pre-order the paper edition, there's a special message from James, and I know we also have some actually hand-signed editions different accounts will have. So when I buy accounts, that's publishing speak for booksellers. So many different booksellers will be selling hand-signed books by James, and his tour dates, I believe, are on his site, and he's going to be out talking the book up, so you could ask him in person all these questions that we didn't get to answer online.
And just in case you missed it, Fever Code excerpt was on USA Today, so you can go online and look at that now. Just a little taste of it before it comes out.
And it's about Chuck.
It's about Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys, have a good night, and we'll see you in August.
Good night.
Okay. Bye, guys. See ya.